My graduation party was scheduled for June 15th. I'd been planning it for months. The invitations were custom letterpress, cream cardstock with gold foil edging, costing $450. I paid for them myself just like I paid for my SAT prep courses, my AP exam fees, and the deposit for my dorm at Yale. But 10 days before the date, my mother, Denise, walked into the kitchen while I was studying organic chemistry. She didn't look sad. She looked efficient, like a manager delivering a quarterly report. "Giselle," she said, pouring herself a glass of alkaline water. "We're canceling the party." I didn't look up from my textbook. "Postponing." "Canceling," she corrected, her tone crisp. "Your sister is in a very fragile place right now. All this talk about Yale, the valedictorian speech, the party. It's too much for her. Juliet feels overshadowed. She's spiraling, Giselle. We need to prioritize her mental health." I set my pen down. "So you're canceling my graduation party because Juliet is jealous?" "Not jealous. Fragile. She's suffering from severe anxiety because you're leaving and she feels abandoned. We're taking the party budget, the $5,000, and sending her to that wellness retreat in Arizona for the weekend. The one with the equine therapy. It's what she needs." She took a sip of water, her eyes scanning the pristine quartz countertop for smudges. The cruelty wasn't in the decision itself. It was in the casualness of it. The absolute certainty that my milestones were negotiable, while Juliet's feelings were emergencies. Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I'd love to know who's part of our community. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just nodded, watched her walk out of the kitchen, and went to my room. I closed the door and locked it. Then I opened my laptop and pulled up a spreadsheet I'd named The Ledger. For years I'd been tracking it. Not out of pettiness, but out of a need for proof. Proof that I wasn't crazy. Proof that the disparity was real. I scrolled through the entries. Item: vlogging camera for Juliet's influencer career. Cost: $1,200. Usage: used twice, currently gathering dust on her vanity. Item: my 2012 Toyota Corolla. Cost: $3,000. Condition: dented bumper, faulty AC. Paid for by me with money from tutoring. Title held by Douglas, my father. Item: Juliet's 16th birthday party. Cost: $8,000. Theme: euphoria. Outcome: she cried because the DJ played the wrong song. Item: my graduation party invitations. Cost: $450. Status: trash. I looked at the numbers. They were cold, hard facts. My GPA was 4.0. Juliet's was a carefully managed 2.8, bolstered by tutors I wasn't allowed to have because, "You're naturally smart, Giselle, you don't need help." For 18 years I had accepted this. I had swallowed the unfairness like a bitter pill, convincing myself that if I just worked harder, if I was just lower maintenance, eventually they would see me. I thought I was being the good daughter, the reliable one, the one who didn't cause waves. But looking at that spreadsheet, something clicked. I realized I hadn't been good. I had been compliant. I had been conditioned. There's a psychological concept called learned helplessness. It's like a bird in a cage. If you keep the door open but train the bird to believe it can't fly, it will stay in the cage even when the bars are gone. I had been that bird. I stayed not because they forced me, but because I believed my purpose was to be the ballast for Juliet's emotional storms. I believed that my stability was the rent I paid to exist in this family. If Juliet was the hurricane, I was the sandbag. If she was the fire, I was the water. They needed me to be boring and steady so she could be chaotic and brilliant. My success wasn't a point of pride for them. It was a threat to her ego. And in this house, Juliet's ego was the only thing that mattered. Closed the laptop. The bird looked at the open door. And for the first time I didn't see safety in the cage. I saw it for what it was. Trap. I stood up and walked to my closet. I pulled out 2 large suitcases. I didn't pack everything, just the essentials. My clothes, my laptop, My birth certificate and passport, which I'd swiped from the family safe months ago, just in case. Then I logged into my secret bank account. The one they didn't know about. The one where I deposited my barista tips, my tutoring money, the cash from selling my old textbooks. Balance: $18,450. It wasn't a fortune, but it was freedom. Packed methodically. No panic, no tears, just efficiency. I stripped my bed, cleared my desk. I left the room looking like a guest room, devoid of personality, devoid of me. I walked downstairs. The house was quiet. Denise was in the living room, on the phone with a travel agent, booking Juliet's spa treatments. I could hear her voice, light and airy. Yes, the hot stone massage. And the crystal healing session. She's been under so much stress lately. Her sister is leaving for college, and it's just been so hard on her. Hard on her. I walked to the kitchen counter. I took the key to the Toyota Corolla off my ring. I placed it on the marble surface. It made a small clinking sound. I took a piece of paper and a pen. I wrote one line. Enjoy the spa. I'm checking out. I left the note next to the key. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't slam the door. I just walked out into the cool night air, dragged my suitcases down the driveway and called an Uber. I watched the house disappear in the rearview mirror. The perfect lawn. The symmetrical windows. The facade of a happy, successful family. It was all a lie. And I was no longer willing to be a prop in their performance. My phone buzzed. A text from Aunt Jacqueline. I'm here. Gate is open. Dinner is in the oven. Jacqueline was my father's sister. The black sheep. The one who stopped getting invited to Christmas because she refused to compliment Denise's dry turkey and refused to pretend Juliet's tantrums were artistic expression. She saw through them. And because she saw them, they hated her. The Uber pulled up to her house. It was a small cottage in a neighboring town, overgrown with ivy and smelling of lavender. It wasn't grand. It wasn't impressive. But it was warm. Jacqueline met me at the door. She didn't ask questions. She didn't ask for an explanation. She just pulled me into a hug that felt like safety. You're safe here, she whispered. I walked into the guest room. It was small, cozy, filled with books. I sat on the bed and exhaled. For the first time in 18 years, I wasn't holding my breath. The next morning the text started. Denise. Where are you? You need to drive your sister to the airport for her flight. The car keys are on the counter. Stop playing games. Douglas. Your mother is upset. This is incredibly selfish, Giselle. Juliet needs support right now, not drama. Juliet. Thanks for ruining my spa trip prep. You always make everything about you. They didn't ask if I was okay. They didn't ask why I left. They were just annoyed that the staff had quit. They were mad that the appliance, me, wasn't working. I didn't reply. I blocked their numbers. I opened my laptop and started looking up early move-in options for Yale. I wasn't going back. The ledger was closed. 6 months later I was in New Haven. Yale was everything Greenwich wasn't. It was messy, intellectual, challenging. Nobody cared about my clothes or my car. They cared about my ideas. I threw myself into my work. I joined a research lab in the psychology department. The professor, Dr. Aris, was studying family systems. Specifically, the impact of high-achieving siblings on family dynamics. I became his lead undergraduate researcher. I poured my life into the data. I interviewed hundreds of students. Found patterns. I found a name for what I was. The glass child. The sibling who is looked through. The one who is expected to be transparent, to have no needs, because the other sibling, the special one, whether due to disability, talent, or in Juliet's case, narcissism, takes up all the light. Our research was groundbreaking. We found that glass children often develop high resilience but struggle with setting boundaries. We found that they often become high achievers as a survival mechanism, trying to earn love through utility. A producer from a major morning show read our preliminary paper. She contacted Dr. Aris. She wanted to interview us. Live. National television. This resonates, she told us. So many people feel this. Nobody talks about it. I agreed to the interview. I was terrified, but I was ready. Then the promo aired. Tune in Tuesday to meet the Yale student uncovering the secret pain of the glass child. Are you the invisible sibling? My phone, which I had unblocked for emergency contacts, lit up. Text from Denise. We saw the commercial. So proud of you. We always knew you were special. I stared at the screen. Proud. They had kicked me out. They had ignored me for 6 months. Now they were proud. Then I saw Juliet's TikTok. She was crying. The caption read, "My sister is on TV talking about our trauma." I was the inspiration for her research. It's so hard growing up in a high-pressure home. #glasschild #survivor. She was rewriting history. She was stealing my narrative. She was claiming to be the victim of the very dynamic she had enforced. Denise shared the video on Facebook. My beautiful girls, turning our family struggles into art. So brave. They were going to co-opt my work. They were going to use my success to feed Juliet's ego. I felt a cold, hard anger settle in my stomach. It wasn't the hot, reactive anger of a teenager. It was the cold, strategic anger of a researcher who has just found the final piece of data. They wanted to be part of the story. Fine. I would let them. But I would make sure the world saw the unedited footage. Tuesday morning. The green room smelled of hairspray and coffee. I sat in the makeup chair, my hands folded in my lap. Dr. Aris sat next to me, reviewing his notes. You ready, Giselle? He asked. Yes, I said. I'm ready. I checked my phone one last time. Juliet was live on Instagram. She was doing a get ready with me for my interview watch party. She was telling her followers that she had pushed me to share our story, that she was the one who encouraged me to go to Yale. It's so important to support your siblings, she said to the camera, applying lip gloss. Even when they're difficult. Put the phone away. The stage manager counted down. 3, 2, 1. We were live. The host Savannah turned to me. Giselle, your research on the glass child has touched a nerve. Can you explain what that term means? I looked into the camera. I imagined I was looking directly at Denise. A glass child is a sibling who is looked through, I said, my voice steady. They are the children who learn early on that their needs are secondary. They learn that to be loved, they must be useful. They must be invisible. They must not take up space because the other child, the golden child or the high needs child, consumes all the oxygen in the room. I spoke about the financial disparities, the emotional neglect. I spoke about how these children often leave home early, seeking safety and independence. I never mentioned my family by name. I didn't have to. The dignity of my silence spoke louder than any accusation. Meanwhile, on Instagram, Juliet's live stream was imploding. She was watching the TV, filming her reaction. She expected the comments to be flooded with sympathy. She expected people to call her brave. But the internet is smarter than that. Someone commented, "Wait, didn't you post last year about getting a new car while your sister drove a beater?" Another comment, "She's describing a narcissistic sibling. That sounds like you." Juliet's smile faltered. "No, you guys don't get it. I was the one who suffered. I had so much pressure. Giselle was the lucky one. She got to be invisible. I had to be perfect." The comments scrolled faster. "You forced your parents to cancel her graduation party." Someone found the old Facebook post. "You took her party budget for a spa trip?" Juliet's face turned red. The narcissistic injury was happening in real time. Her false reality, the one where she was the main character and I was the villain, was shattering under the weight of the truth. "I deserved that spa trip," she screamed at the phone, forgetting she was live to thousands. "I was depressed. She was leaving me. She's so selfish. She's a boring robot who thinks she's better than everyone just because she got into Yale." Then the door behind her opened. Denise walked in. She didn't know the camera was rolling. "Juliet, stop shouting." Denise hissed. You're ruining the brand. We're supposed to look like supportive victims here. Fix your face, the segment is almost over. The live stream cut off. But it was too late. Screen recordings were already circulating. The Glass Child segment ended. I smiled at the host. I walked off the set. Checked my phone. My research paper had been downloaded 10,000 times in the last hour. And Juliet Meltdown was trending on Twitter. I didn't feel gleeful. Felt clean. Like a fever had broken. The fallout was swift. Greenwich is a small town, and reputation is currency. The video of Juliet's meltdown and Denise's hot mic moment circulated through the country clubs and PTA groups like wildfire. They were uninvited from the fall gala. Juliet lost her brand deal with a skincare company. They tried to call me. Denise left voicemails ranging from sobbing to screaming. Douglas sent emails threatening legal action for defamation, which my lawyer, Aunt Jacqueline's friend, dismissed with a laugh. Truth is an absolute defense. I didn't answer. I didn't engage. I didn't need to. I used the momentum. I didn't become an influencer. I didn't write a tell-all book about my terrible family. I did something better. I launched this Shatterproof Scholarship. Using the proceeds from my speaking engagements and a generous grant from the university, I created a fund specifically for glass children. It provided money for therapy, for college applications, for the things their parents had forgotten to pay for. I remember sitting in my office at Yale, reading the first batch of applications. Essays from kids who had raised themselves. Kids who had been the third parent. Kids who had been invisible. I approved the first grant. A girl named Maya. She wanted to go to engineering camp, but her parents had spent the money on her brother's hockey gear. I signed the check. $1,000. This was the justice of the sower. Revenge is burning the house down. It's satisfying, but it leaves you with ashes. Justice, true justice, is taking the bricks they threw at you and building a foundation. It's growing a garden in the place where they tried to bury you. My family was still back in Greenwich, trapped in their cycle of image maintenance and narcissistic collapse. They were still trying to win a game I had stopped playing. I looked out the window at the campus. The leaves were turning gold. I took a sip of coffee. I was 20 years old. Had a career. Had a mission. Had peace. And I had paid for it all myself. If you've ever had to break a chain to build a life, share this story. You are not invisible. And you are not alone.